I struggled with early extension for a long time until I discovered it's all about how you have your hips and posture at setup, plus the initial movement during the backswing that make or breaks your ability to swing through the ball correctly. In today's video, JT and I are going to show you the two most important things you must do to fix your early extension forever. All right, JT, so in today's video, why amateur golfers, why the person watching can't fix their early extension. Now, in this video, we're going to talk through 2 to 3 really important phases of the swing. What we see when we do all of our lessons, right, is when someone can't fix early extension, there's usually one of 2 problems. And they both are what you do earlier in the swing. Yeah. Problem number 1, right, that we see is if you're at a position with the club or club face itself earlier in the swing, your brain's always going to early extend to fix that.
To help you.
To help you. That would be potential issue number 1. The second potential issue, if you can't fix early extension, is your pelvis itself, the part that's early extending, if you will, is also out of position earlier in the swing. So I would say if we saw 100 golf swings, 98 of them either, and they're like, hey, I've got early extension for a long time, I can't fix it. I would say 98 out of 100, the shaft is too steep and or the club face is too open. That's one category. Or their setup and backswing pelvis motions are off.
Yes.
Agree or disagree?
100% agree.
Agree, okay.
Yeah.
So what would be the issues at the setup position with the pelvis that would lead to early extension later on?
Too much anterior tilt, right? So having your lower back arch too much.
It's like sticking my butt out.
Yeah, sticking your butt out. Okay. Another version of that would not even be sticking your butt out, but simply sitting that far back. So if I'm just having my butt too far behind my heels is another thing that's going to cause that as well. So those would be probably the 2 main things that we see. Just too much bent over to begin with, too much anterior tilt, or weight and pelvis just too far back into the heels.
Yeah, 100%. I see hips too far back the majority of the time. And so from the down the line angle, when we look at like weight on the heels and hips too far back, let's say where should we be? Right, yeah. We would want the pressure to be more like balls of the feet.
Yeah, balls of the feet, right on the edge of your shoestrings.
Okay, so like just forward of middle of the foot.
Yes.
Kind of, it's fine.
Yeah.
Now, if my pressure is more on the balls of the feet, my hips are gonna be less back. But as a checkpoint from down here, do you like, let's say the back of the butt line sitting like a fist or a club head behind the heels? I like that. You like that?
Yeah, and you could even go a little bit ahead of that, especially if you're struggling with sticking your butt way too far out. You can feel like your butt is right on the edge of your heels. Yeah.
So okay, so the sensation's almost like trying to get the back of my butt as close to the heel line as possible.
Yes, and then you bend your knees a little bit to get the knees over that same line of where the ball of your feet is. So, yep, exactly.
Okay, so if I'm looking at the edge of my shoelace here, that's kind of where my pressure is, and that's roughly where my knees would be bent.
Yes.
And then I'm trying to get my butt line closer to
your heels if you're sticking it too far out, right?
So almost like if I was standing here and I put a fist behind my butt, if that was like a wall or something,
yes,
I should be able to take a setup and kind of just barely get there.
Yes, barely get there.
Yeah. Now, what about the anterior tilt? If I'm someone who does this, I got this big arch in my lower back, butt's back like this, they're going to need to feel like level out the hips.
Yes, I tell everyone kind of hugging a beach ball is the way that I...
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, so okay. Hugging a beach ball is the way that I sort of describe it to everyone, because in order to hug it right, you have to round out your whole rib cage, round out your pelvis.
Hugging a beach ball, I like that. Okay, so my hips are pulled under.
Yep.
Now, and the whole point of this, right, is like, if I set up with my hips back and my weight back in this huge arch, and I reach like an end range of motion, my brain's not going to go create more hip depth.
No.
I would miss the ball, I'd fall over, hurt myself.
Exactly.
It's going to go the opposite way. So the whole point is like set up those pieces so that during the late transition, early downswing, I can create that depth. Is that right?
Yes.
I feel the pressure on the balls of the feet. I feel the knees over the balls of the feet. The hips are a little bit more kind of rounded under. I'm hugging a beach ball, do you say?
Yeah, hugging a beach ball. Yeah.
Okay, I'm stealing that one. Hugging a beach ball. Let's just hit with that first. And if I feel like my hips are more under, very easy. I mean, my brain naturally wants to create hip depth and not kick more in towards the ball. Why would I kick more in towards the ball then, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's part 1, the setup pieces that could go wrong. Part 2 is like what the hips do on the way back.
Let's say I do my setup perfectly here, right? My setup's great, I'm looking good, I got my pelvis tucked under me, hugging the beach ball. A lot of people get right back into that position we just got out of really quickly.
Ah, okay.
So now I'm set up really nice, but I get right back into my butt being really far behind my heels.
Too early.
Way too early.
Okay.
Because we know, like, hey, I'm trying to fix my early extension. I got to get my butt back, right?
Yes.
Well, if you get it back too early, you just put yourself in that same
problem as the setup.
Same problem. So what we're trying to do
that's going to be a light bulb moment for some people.
Yes.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is actually feel mostly like your setup for, let's say, the first half of your backswing. So you're trying to feel, you're turning, you're doing everything, you're side bending, but you're trying to feel like your pelvis especially is sort of in that same space of where it is. So it's not moving back, It's not moving forward. It's kind of just where it is as I'm, side bending and rotating up to the top. Now,
and for how, that, would you say like the first half of the swing?
The first half.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're at the first half. So now I'm here feeling the same tucked, turning, everything's the same. I'll get to this halfway back point. Now, this is where I'm going to start to change direction. I'm going to start to get ready to hit the ball. We want to be creating space for our hips as we do that. So in that time here, so if you were to just take like an alignment stick or a club, you could stick it in the ground here behind us to use it for reference. But I would be, making a little bit of space as I turned, but most of my space would come from this lead arm parallel up to the top. Now I'm getting back more into that hip, kind of loading that hip a little bit better so that when I transition, I'm flowing into that movement almost on the way down. So the longer we can wait, especially if you're someone who struggles with getting back too quickly, the longer you can wait, the better.
So like the timing is really important.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I got the setup pieces correct. So from here during the takeaway, the first half, I'm not trying to create hip depth or kind of push that way back. I'm keeping where I'm at.
Yep, keeping where you're at.
This piece here, I'm keeping that the same to about here.
Yes.
And now is where I do the kind of pushing back.
Yeah, you can start to get it a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. So now you have more and more space there. Absolutely, yeah.
And then I'm keeping that in the transition pieces. Okay, so the timing, that's interesting. I think a lot of people have missed that piece along the way.
Because, a lot of people talk about just trying to do the motions, but when you do the motions is equally important. You could actually be doing the right thing at the wrong time and still get bad results. So
JT. So let me try that and flow that into the downswing.
Yeah, flow that in there.
So does that setup piece look pretty good there?
Setup piece looks really nice.
So I'm going to keep that early and then flow on the way down. Yeah, way, way, way easier to create the sort of depth pieces, from what I feel at least, compared to the normal. That's a good point. Look, back to the original, we said, hey, if you struggle with your hips kicking in towards the ball through impact, there's reasons earlier on. And so if you want to stack the odds in your favor, keep this forward and neutral. Like, why would you go more forward?
Yeah.
You never would do that.
No.
You would create the opposite effect, right? The same thing as to why when you reach end range of motion back here, you go this way. Well, if I kind of reach end range of motion this way almost, I can create the opposite.
Exactly.
Got it, okay.
That's
but the timing.
The timing is huge. When we create that force is super important.
More like that.
Love it, yeah, very good.
See, so I'm gonna get the hips under it set up, keep them like that till about halfway back, and then create it late, backswing, early downswing.
Create it late.
And I can tell via me doing these drills right now that I'm definitely, and I know that I do, right? I like to do it early.
Yes.
And then my hips like to kick more in this way.
Yep. And move it back. Yeah, great.
Yeah, that feels really good.
So good, yeah.
So
I think that drill with just an alignment stick there, guys, would be really, really simple. So Eric, if you just want to set up quick, and I'll just kind of show you guys where the alignment stick should be. So
that would go down in front.
Yep.
And what I'm feeling is like the distance between here and here stays kind of the same early.
Stays kind of the same early.
Okay. So this stays here early, and then I create it.
Yeah, and then try to get a big space in there. Keep that space in there.
Keep that space.
Yeah.
Get a big space, keep that big space. So as I'm starting down even, like when I'm going back, my right hip in transition is getting deeper, a little higher than my left. And it's feeling like it's staying like that maybe for a second as I start down.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Really
that felt
nice.
really good.
So good.
If you put those in and you still struggle with early extension, I want you to watch this video next. It's all about how the upper body moves during the downswing.